Welcome to Keiretsu Forum Presents. I'm Adam Henderson. Keiretsu Forum is one of the largest angel investment networks in the world. Tell you a little bit about it. We have 53 chapters in 26 countries. I currently handle the worldwide operations for Keiretsu Forum. And today in our program, we're very proud to have a presenting company and a wonderful company and its CEO here. I'd like to welcome you and welcome Heather Siddick, CEO of Relola. Welcome, Heather.
Thanks, Adam. It's so nice to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. So we're going to talk about a very interesting topic for everybody in the world, including our children.
Yeah.
Very important. Our topic is next-gen social media. And as a CEO of a company that is in the social media space, what does next-gen social media mean to you?
Oh, it's such an interesting question. Thank you. Well, the world has evolved, and as it's evolved in the world of technology, social media came into the game, 10, 15 years ago. And it's kind of a wild, wild west evolution where social media has grown to become what it is today without any rules, really with very little regulation, and really as just kind of a big experiment. Nobody knew what it could be. Nobody knew how people would respond and what would naturally come out of the social landscape in a digital world, right?
Right.
So I see that there are a lot of wonderful benefits to society from social media, and also a lot of actually pretty significant detrimental effects. We can call them side effects, maybe. Also, other kinds of results where there are assets being developed and controlled by differing parties, and so to kind of get into that a little bit. But I think that next-gen social media is an evolution from this kind of fragmented, wild, experimental state that we've been in to something that's a little more refined and probably a better service to humanity. So that's what I see as the next gen of social media.
Interesting, and it's probably an incredible opportunity, but as you said, it's had its problems. This next gen, let's talk about some of the problems that you see, and then what do you see as the change that's occurring for the next gen?
Absolutely. So there are some problems with the way that content is handled. I'll get into that in a minute. But also, I think the most important and alarming problem that we're seeing is that social media has had a negative side effect of actually, instead of creating more sense of connectivity for people, it's actually created a sense of isolation. And people are becoming literally addicted to receiving information coming in, right? So they put something out there, they expect a result very quickly, and that result can simply be like a notification on their phone or a ping or something. And what's actually truly evolved scientifically is that people are having a dopamine effect. So they get a little rush of dopamine, it's a drug, when they get that ping that they're waiting for, and they literally become addicted to this drug. And so without that constant dose of dopamine, we're finding that people are becoming increasingly depressed. And this is becoming statistically relevant. So in the United States, over the past 3 years, I've heard that the average age of a person has declined. And this is the only time in the history of, a first world country with developing medical, things that keep us alive longer, right, that we've seen a decline in the average life expectancy. The only other time this happened in the United States was like during World War I, because all of these young soldiers were getting killed. Okay, so the problem is younger people are dying, and the uptick in younger deaths is related to depression. People are dying from drug overdoses. They're dying from suicide at much higher rates than before. And that does correlate to, unfortunately, the advancement of social media and how many hours we're spending on average on social platforms. So, yeah, big question.
So that's a big problem.
Yeah, big problem.
Big problem. And what's amazing is it's this sort of counterintuitive effect, right? We think that the social platforms have created this environment to connect and feel more connected. But in fact, what's happening is we've become addicted to that connection part.
Right.
And also this sort of immediate gratification, this idea that when you send a note out or an email or a picture, you want somebody to like it.
Yeah.
And if nothing comes in, you feel like nobody liked it.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't mean that, but it puts us in, and particularly the younger people in this difficult position of dealing with that social media that way. And as you said, it's these trends and things, there is correlations to this problem. What do you think going forward? And not to mention, of course, the whole grown-up environment of politics.
Oh, yes.
And everything else in
Yes.
social media. Maybe talk about that. Let's call it a truth. Can you talk about that?
Certainly. So I think the first thing that we're talking about is, how younger generations are becoming, feeling isolated, depressed, maybe less connected as a result of using social media. The other thing that's happening, as you mentioned, is that information is coming at us in a way that is programmed. So, for example, organizations are able to buy their way in front of an audience. And so these social platforms, all of them, they are all operating pretty much in the same way. So when I say Facebook, I could also be saying LinkedIn or Twitter or Snapchat, any of them. What they leverage and the way they make money is by audience curation. And they sell access to an audience to some organization that wants to get in front of that audience. So that organization could be a retail company, it could be a nonprofit, it could be a political party. In all of these cases, what's happening is people are getting information in front of them in their own private social feeds they feel private, but they aren't, from organizations that want their attention. And I think that there's been a big sense of somewhat like a little bit of a sense of betrayal, right? Because you built up this relationship with a group of people that you want to be informed by and share information with on social. And as we've evolved, these companies have come in and said, oh, guess what? You're an asset. We're going to sell literally your own space on this platform to people who want to get in front of you. What's happened is that there's this sense of distrust and that people are feeling like their profiles aren't safe, they're not protected. As a mother, I don't let my children have any kind of online social presence where somebody can actually get in front of them with a message that I don't have access to or know about. So I think that's a big problem. It's one of those that's not really necessarily a side effect. It's actually a really great business strategy, and it's making these companies a ton of money.
Right.
But ultimately, that's turning a little bit because people are now wary. And we've seen that this year. There's been a lot of conversation around this topic. So there are some changes happening.
Very interesting. And I remember, I think it was one of the Kardashians, where there's also the absolute downside for the corporations who appear to be trying to brand themselves with a particular, could be a celebrity, an athlete or some star, and they get put into the wrong environment with that particular company's label on themselves and things. And so pretty soon there's damage control in the social media environment on the corporate side. So talk a little bit about that, and even companies who actually are paying to have these social media things out there, and the potential downside risk for them.
Certainly. So what we were just talking about is how the platforms are leveraging an audience and selling access to that audience to a variety of types of organizations. So one of the things they've done to overcome that issue is to really tighten up access. So if I'm an organization and I put out a post that I think is going to reach my audience, let's say I have 1 million followers. If I think my post is going to end up in front of 1 million followers, I'm wrong. The platforms are limiting that reach to only 2% of those followers. And in order for that organization to reach the remaining 98%, they have to pay. So they pay this social platform. Well, the problem here is if I'm following something and they don't want to pay, there's 98% chance I'm not going to see the thing that I want to learn about. So maybe this is a nonprofit. Okay, let's just say there's some organization out there that wants to save the elephants.
Right.
And if they want to reach me, they have to pay. So now that's not good.
Right.
Because I'd rather that money go to save the elephants than to reach me, somebody who's been following them, thinking that I'm getting informed by this organization at no cost. Now, by following a nonprofit that I care about, I'm actually costing them potentially money. This isn't really a great result.
Wow.
So these are some of the challenges that are, these things evolve, but there's a way to fix them as well.
Wow.
So I think you're going to see next gen social media solving that type of problem.
So let's get there. I think we're setting the table for what is kind of the current, I mean, it's a long problem.
Yeah.
So we have it all the way from the component of the kids and actually the physical results of social media, of which we're assumably connecting, but it's really causing more of a disconnect.
Yeah, and there's one point that I failed to make earlier on that topic that I think is important. One of the things that this sense of disconnection has created is an idea that you can put anything out there, right? Because you can say anything, you're disconnected. Is somebody going to really respond to that or not? Who knows? And there has been an increase in bullying using, on social platforms, and especially with younger people. And the results have been, I mean, in some cases, catastrophic. There's also these strange trends towards challenges like light yourself on fire, kind of weird stuff, right? And this is happening because of this sense of disconnection. But the reality is the results are devastating in some cases. And so the emotional impact is huge. And at the same time, this dissociative aspect is enabling that kind of activity. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to point out,
it's a great point. A great point, because that's a whole leg of the problem, and then continuing that out and back to your points on the corporate and the followers, and really the idea that I think as a population and as we're learning about social media and actually how it functions, we're losing the truth, right? So we know these companies are actually paying certain people to actually use or wear their brands. And so would they otherwise be using or wearing those brands without getting compensated for it? And it seems like the world, and even I'd say the next gen, is in an odd way is also all about this truth. And so this advertising platform, it seems, is going to ultimately erode itself. Because there's no truth in it. And in this world today, between politics and media and things, we're all trying to find a truth. So maybe you can address that a bit for us.
Yes, that is a really interesting thing we've watched evolve in less than 10 years. So what we've seen is there's traditional advertising. You watch Mad Men, not much has changed since, over the past 50 years. But now it is changing, and it's changing fast. So we used to, rely on branded advertisements. Somebody, whatever you're used to, like the Coke is It kind of ad, and a clever slogan, and an image that's recurring, and some kind of archetypal theme. That was pretty much all advertising has been for decades. And these ads were showing up on social media. Entities were paying to get the ads in front of people. But what's happening is people stopped clicking on the ads. They're not just on social media, they're on all kinds of digital, digital assets, Google ads, all of that. It's the same thing. It's, clickbait ads that aren't getting clicked. So if you're not getting your ads clicked, that's a problem if you're paying a whole lot of money to get them out there. So there was this sort of idea that, if we make it something that's more relevant, more interesting, like an influencer, someone people admire using our product, maybe they'll click on it more. So there's this trend towards what's called influencer marketing. I think there was a slight uptick in click-through rates as that became a norm over time. But then what happened is people started seeing those ads also as, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that person's just getting paid to hold this beverage or whatever it is. And I know that's really just another ad that's no different than the ones before. That influencer doesn't really love whatever the product is. They're just getting paid. Now, there has actually been in the past year, on Instagram, you'll see this is paid for, this is a paid promotion, like on an influencer kind of ad. So what people want is something that's genuine. And they want it so badly, you know? They want it in every kind of way, and even a relationship in a digital world isn't genuine. And you see this in the dating apps, like it's not just social media, but it's in these other ways we're trying to connect, but it's in like, there are 1,000 more potential dates for you, so why connect with this one? Well, eventually you're gonna connect with no one ever, because it's just infinite. It's an infinite sea of stuff. Oh my so gosh. I think that the authentic and the genuine is what we're yearning for, and it's what people will respond to. So I think you're going to see in next-gen social media a trend towards leveraging the genuine.
So that's great. So that a perfect transition here, because social media and next-gen, how can we get more authentic? How can we be more organic? And can you talk about that?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, we created Relola to address some of these problems. So we're pretty deep into it.
And Relola is your company.
Relola is the company that I founded.
And this is cool. So because we've had these big issues, and you've created this company, and you have this vision in mind that's next gen, and it's authentic, and it's organic?
It is.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah, I hope it's also safe.
Safe.
Right? It won't kill you.
Wonderful.
That's key.
That's good.
Yeah, so, well, the things that we're solving are the problems we've discussed. And if we want to talk about kind of just the commercial one, we'll start there. The idea that an entity builds an audience and invests in that, and that the social platform that they built it on is now leveraging that audience. With Relola, organizations can create what we call private social channels. So Relola is a technology tool that allows any website to be its own social platform. So they can own their audience. So in the case of, you know, an organization that has 1 million followers, they can start inviting those followers to follow them on their own website. So instead of saying, like, follow us on Facebook, it would say, follow us on our website, right? And so their audience, that's the natural audience for them, will start following them in their own private social channel. This can be part of their pre-existing apps, if they have mobile apps, or it can be accessed through the Relola platform. Those channels live there as well, and through the Relola apps on mobile devices. And then when people post to that channel, their post will display on the social pages of that organization's website. So with Relola, content displays in a map and in a gallery, things we're familiar with and used to. When you post, it will display there. And so this is really important, because when people are sharing and part of this channel, that organization is the only relationship they have. The relationship is with that group, with that org. The org messaged them all at once. They don't have to pay to reach them. It's their audience, and it's very much contained. So they're not getting fragmented, weird content coming at them. They're getting something that they literally have decided to be interested in and to follow, instead of random things. So I think that's one way. The other is that when these users are sharing content to that organization, they can also simultaneously post it to their pre-existing social channels. And when their followers click on those posts, it will open up on that organization's website. So we're able to keep all of the activity around that content where it belongs, with the organization that's created that audience, which has created content on behalf of the organization. So this is working really well for nonprofits who want to get their message out, who want to build their, you know, awareness and get more donors and get more volunteers involved. It's fantastic for organizations for children. We did a test with the Boy Scouts in LA. Boy Scouts love Relola because it's monitored. Nobody can get in front of the Scouts. It's a private environment where the kids have to sign in and the parents can sign in to have access to this social world, but none of it is public. And so it's a really safe environment for children, which solves that problem, right?
Right.
The other problems that we discussed are, this sort of problem of feeling dissociated, unconnected, and having this almost chemical dependency on receiving content.
Right.
One of the challenges with that is that the content that's coming in is often frivolous. It can be like puppies and cappuccinos. It's
Right.
not really content about things that you deeply care about.
Right.
If you're engaged with information that you care about, I think you get a different effect, and it's more of a result of like curiosity. You want to learn more, and the benefit is actually like that learning and that engagement, not the ping, right?
Right.
So if you read a book, you're not getting a dopamine effect, but it's a very enjoyable activity.
Right.
Okay, so we have given organizations and people a way to literally follow or be involved with the things that matter to them. And with Relola, we geotag content. So you can drop a pin and say, I just volunteered and did this beach cleanup today, right? And literally add that, and the other people who cleaned up the beach can all add it together, and it shows up on a map. And people who are cleaning up the beach all the way across the world in Iceland can drop a pin, and now we're like all around the world cleaning up the beaches. We can see our activity. We feel a part of something that we care about. We get that emotional pleasure of contributing. And we just did an activity that we've documented that literally is physical with people in the real world.
And it's real.
It's real,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that if we're using social as an augmentation of real, genuine activity and connections, as a way of enhancing that and bringing life to that, that's good. And that's a benefit. And at the same time, we're curating all that content, it becomes a resource. But but you're not going to get that drug dopamine effect from that kind of social use. So I think hopefully by that sort of next gen evolution of social media, we're helping to solve some of those original problems.
Well, it's an awesome agenda for your company to do that, and absolutely needed. And let's talk about then how your company, so we've got that part that you described there. If I'm Nike, and I'm running a marathon, and so take us through the idea as I'm seeing this. I'm running a marathon, I've got my Nike shoes on, and I'm not an influencer. I'm a real person. I'm a guy.
You're a real guy.
There's a gal, and we're running, and we're a real person crossing the finish line. And you get a picture of yourself, and you want to post that. Maybe Facebook, you did the marathon, but you're wearing Nikes.
Yeah.
Or you have an Adidas shirt on. Tell us also for that side of the world how we help the whole ecosystem of social media. From the corporate side.
I mean, we do need commercial benefits, and we do need shoes, right? And we want to get the shoes that are going to work for us. So in the example you've shared, Nike can create a private social channel with Relola. Every time somebody buys shoes, they can invite them to follow them on the channel and to contribute their posts of them completing a marathon in Nikes, right? So if you just completed a marathon, and let's say your wife took a video of you crossing the finish line, and you published it to the Nike channel, and you shared it to the Facebook page at the same time, which is simultaneous with Relola, then I am going to see that. I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, Adam completed a marathon, and I'm going to click on it because I'm going to want to watch that happen. So when I click on your video of you completing the marathon on your, let's say LinkedIn, since we're business friends, then that will open on Nike's website. And I get to watch the video of you completing the marathon. Nike can actually fine-tune that link back so that whatever shoes you're wearing, those Nikes, are next to your image, next to your video, so that I could actually buy them if I wanted to.
And then Nike can send me a discount card,
there you go.
right? For
Well, okay, so that's a slippery slope. Actually, Nike can send you discounts Nike could do that if they wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend instead that Nike offers special exclusive opportunities and promotions to people who are following their channel, right?
Right.
And maybe if you post X number of times per year, then something. But what I don't think is beneficial to anyone is for Nike to give you a discount for that post, or send you like 1% of every sale related to someone clicking on that, because then you become an influencer marketer and you're no longer genuine.
Well, there we go.
Right? So
Right.
you would lose that effect of like,
Right.
like you really love those shoes. You really
Right.
you really ran a marathon. One of the things that I think about is like, if you saw an ad on Facebook of some person standing in front of a house with some keys saying like, I just bought this new house, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't know that person, would you click on it?
No.
No, no way. If you saw an ad of me, not an ad,
Yeah.
a post
A post.
of me standing in front of a house saying, oh my gosh, I just bought this new house, check it out, would you click on it?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you care, because
Right.
it's real.
Right.
And I really did buy the house.
And you did it. It's organic. It's truthful.
Right. And so
Right.
I think that is just a simple demonstration of exact same image-ish thing, but totally different result.
That well said. And so unfortunately we're starting to run out of time. And this has been incredible. I appreciate the time that you have spent with us. Just briefly, where are you with your company? I know you've been in expanded growth, and even through the Keiretsu Forum family, you've been to Tokyo.
Yes.
You've raised money all over the world through our Korean chapter. You've been globally and been rewarded. And so tell us briefly where you're at, and then
Oh, great. Yeah, Keiretsu has been, by the way, amazing. This is genuine content.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nobody's paying me to say this. We have really had a fantastic experience and gained a lot of relationships that are valuable. We are currently raising our A round. We're expecting that to close Q1 of 2019. And the company has a pipeline of business that's pretty astronomical globally. So we'll be growing tremendously over the next year. And we're looking forward to really providing a resource for the world.
Well, thank you. And we've watched your leadership, and as a woman CEO, and you've done an incredible job. And so we're rooting for you, and we're happy you're solving a social media problem, and you're a part of the next gen solution in social media.
Thanks, Adam.
And we would like to thank all of you for joining our program. And you can go to keiretsuforum.com and see other videos. You can also catch us on YouTube. And we look forward to having you again. Thank you for staying with us and learning about next gen social media. Thank you again, Heather.